Okay, rise and fall levelling survey, practical example, here we go. So, been to site, I've taken all my points, I've got my station points, I've done my back site, my intermediate site and my foresight readings, I've got my measurements in meters, then I've made sure I've done all my checks while I'm on site to make sure my booking sheet's done correctly. So what you do now is you get your table ready, really. We're looking to get the end point is your reduced level, like you want to do a profile. So station A, station B, or 1, 2, 3, station 1, 2, 3, all the way to 9. What is the level at each of those station points? Okay. So the first thing you need to do is look at your rise and fall. Now, you don't need to do anything for the benchmark. So you get your GPS out, or you know what your height is above sea level. That's your benchmark. You don't need to know how much it's risen and fallen yet, do you? Because that you've got the height, right? We know how high we are above sea level. We're good, right? So what you do is you say, well, okay, well, what about the next point? So station 2, okay, has it risen or fallen? So there's a bit of a rule. So the way I like to think of it is if the staff height, so I'm line of collimation here, like my eye level, if I'm reading a bit of a staff reading and say it's 0.894 like there, and then it increases. Oh, hold on, the staff increases to 1.6443, which means that the ground has dropped, the ground has fallen. So that's where the idea is, where you've got, if you've got an increase in staff height, it means there's a fall in the land height. The land is going more towards the sea, right? And then you swap it round. So if there was a decrease in staff height, so if I'm looking at my line of collimation here, and then I've got a staff reading, and then my staff reading's smaller on my next point, that means that the ground is rising, it's getting closer to my eye level, right? So that's the rules, that's what I think of, that's how I like to think of it. You can use calculus for this as well. You just take your first reading, take away your second reading, and if it's a negative, it's a fall in height, because you're going down, right? You're going down towards sea level, you're taking away more land, I guess. And then if it's a rise, it's an increase. If it's a positive value, it's an increase and it's a rise. Okay, so you do that all the way through, okay? And you just got to remember when it comes to a change point, so that's where the station is, so it's not move station, that's incorrect really. It's a change point in equipment. So my equipment is moving. So what I do is I make sure that, okay, I've got my line of collimation now, and then I move my equipment, and suddenly my line of collimation might be here. So that's where you've just got to be aware. I don't need to worry about the rise or fall of level. I've already taken it. So at station 4, I already know that the ground is, you know, at this level. It's dropped by this much, right? It's fallen by this much since station 3. So all I have to do is just use that new value. So what I've done is moved the equipment, and then I take my first reading from there, line of collimation, right, my first staff reading is here. Okay, now I'm going on to the next one, which is 5, and that is now decreased. So I've gone from 0.954 to 0.692, which means, oh, what's it mean? If it decreases in height, which is, so a rise in station height, then what's that? Decrease in height is a rise in the ground, okay? So if you look at this, put it in the rise column, took that reading, took that one off it, and surprise, surprise, it's positive, so I go to rise, the rise column. Okay, keep going. Get your head around how to do this. Lovely. Once you've got that sorted and you know how that works, that's great. Then we're on to the final bit of this, which is the reduced level. So all we're doing now is we've got if the ground's rising or if it's falling, right? We've got those from that point to that point to that point, so we've got the difference between them all, haven't we? So some surveyors might just take the level between, say, this first one and the second one, and then the first one and the third one, and then changed and then gone the first one. Yeah, so it gets a bit confusing. All I've done is I've done the differences between each other, so it makes it nice and easy when you're following the table through, because all you're then doing is saying, well, actually we've got the benchmark, which is 820. It's fallen by 0.749 to the next point, so I just take it off because it's fallen. Okay, ground level's fallen, and then I do the next one and I say, oh, well, actually that from that point to the next point, it's fallen by another 1.253. Right, okay, let's put that in. Yeah, and then when we get to the rise, well, it's risen by that much. So I've got, for every single station point, I've got, oh, it's risen by this much, it's fallen by that much, it's risen by this much, it's fallen, and that's all I'm doing. Okay, that's what this reduced level column is about. Okay, so once I've done that, I need to do checks. I do need to make sure my calculations are right. You can double check your calcs however you like, but this is one way of doing it. I look at the sums, okay? So I get my backside, my foresight, my rise and my fall, and I add them all up, okay? And then what I do is I say, well, the difference between my backside and foresight, that gives me 2.022. I know I took the biggest value from the smallest value. I made it easy for myself. You can do it any way you like, as long as you do the same, because I did biggest, take away smallest, and then when you get to rise and fall, I took the biggest value, take away the smallest. So I'm looking at the difference. You're basically looking at the difference between backside and foresight and the difference between rise and fall. As long as they're both the same, there's no error. Okay, and then the final thing is to look at your reduced level, your first reading and your last ever reading. If the difference is the same as the calculations I've just done down here, there is no error, which means my table is complete and ready to go. Okay, so that's it. That's you done. Rise and fall calculations, and put them onto, you can put them on an Excel spreadsheet, put them where you like really. So yeah, plenty more videos to come. All right, thanks for your help. Bye.